Hello, YouTube. I'm Vince White. I'm an employment attorney, and it seems that today I uploaded a video with no sound. And it looks like I spent about 15 minutes making that video, so that's a bummer. Looks like I had to, I'm going to have to reboot my microphone when I get home. But that being said, I'm going to remake the video. I don't have all the handy dandy stuff like the question or what I said. I don't know. So I'm going to do it off the cuff here. And the question, at least from the headline in the video, reads as such. Why do employment attorneys sometimes sue for way more than a case is potentially worth? And the simple answer is incompetence. It's just that simple. There are a lot of employment attorneys who don't actually understand how to value a case. And I say they're employment attorneys, but maybe they're not actually employment attorneys. There's a lot of attorneys who don't understand how to value an employment law case. There's a lot of personal injury attorneys, a lot of divorce attorneys, matrimonial attorneys. They look at employment law and they're like, oh, that's easy money. I'll just make the easy money. And they take an employment case, and then they think they're just going to be like, I'll take $30 million, please. It's my demand. Pay me. And defense counsel will be like, your case is worth 30 grand. What are you talking about? Moron. Right? So that's the first thing that happens. The second thing that happens, and this is often what you see when dealing with the press, you'll see this happen a lot, is employment attorneys who actually do know how to value a case will be a little green when it comes to handling the press. And often, if they're trying to get a case a little bit of attention, what they'll do is say, so journalist, reporter, I am suing for 30 million here. And that's a big deal. That's a big number, right? That's a headline. We're suing for 30 million. And what the attorney is doing there is trying to generate interest with a shocking number, right? Now that is stupid. Stupid for a variety of reasons. But first and foremost, it's stupid because it's going to generate a garbage article. Like, you can get a journalist to write an article about almost any employment case if you want. And I don't think you should be running around trying to get people to write articles about your cases, but that's generally going to be achievable. There's always going to be some reporter somewhere who will do something on a given case, right? You don't really want the article that comes from the quote, we're suing for 30 million. You know what the article's going to say? They're suing for 30 million. You've done absolutely zero to control the narrative. You've not put your clients suffering forward. You've not shared their tale. You've not shared their experiences, what they've been through. Instead, you got a boilerplate article that was typed out on a keyboard, tappa, in, 3 minutes. And the headline is, so-and-so sues such and such for $30 million. Worthless press. Not value in any way. Doesn't help you, doesn't help your client, doesn't seek to control the narrative, doesn't seek to get out ahead of whatever the employer might be doing to try to obfuscate or bend the facts and the reality to their devices, to their goals. So that's another reason why they might do that. A third reason is a lot of times attorneys won't be brave enough to have the conversation with their client about what the case is actually worth. Right? I used to work for a guy years and years and years ago who would, he was accused of jumping on tables and telling people, we'll win you millions. And, he's passed now. I don't want to talk shit about the dead, but when you lie to people to get them to retain you, creates quite a fix because it's a bit of a bind, because at what point are you going to tell that person who you lied to, hey, I lied to you, you're not going to get that much? That's not a fun conversation. This is why you don't lie to potential clients, right? Because, and I get it, there's lots of potential clients who call me up and be like, I want $30 million. And my response would be like, yeah, probably not. Probably like 80 grand, maybe. And that's probably more realistic here. And they'll be like, I'm not going to hire you. You suck. Okay. You just got to be okay with that. You can't be the guy who's running around being like, yeah, 30 million. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. I know you make 20 grand a year, but we're going to get you 30 million, even though nothing really that bad happened to you, right? Like, and I'm not saying this person doesn't have a case. I'm just saying generally the fact pattern that gives rise to a $30 million verdict would be very, very different in a variety of ways from the fact pattern that gives rise to an $80,000 case, right? So, I think as employment attorneys, we have to have those conversations with our clients. And a lot of times, these employment attorneys are just not going to understand their duty in that respect. They're not going to really be having those hard conversations with people, right? I'll talk to people. They'll be like, yeah, I want $30 million. And you're like, okay, so then don't hire me. Why not? Oh, because that number's not based in reality, right? That's just a meaningless number. You're just saying things you want. And I'm obviously not referring to anyone. I'm picking this $30 million number because it's like a big number that actually it seems like it's a triggering number. It seems like a lot of people land on 30 million. It's actually very entertaining. You can always tell it's like 10 million, then 30 million, then like hundreds of millions, and then billions. Those are the big numbers you often hear, it's just like a fun, you can look at how the human mind works and like what numbers excite the human psyche, right? So I think that's another way that these attorneys will come out and they'll know that they're speaking to the press and they're going to look ridiculous in the press, but they'd rather look ridiculous in the press than have a difficult conversation with their client because they're cowards. And that's okay. I mean, listen, I get it. I'm not currently in Ukraine fighting a war right now. You could argue I'm a coward, right? So, I'm not running around pointing. Well, I am running around pointing fingers, but I guess we can point them at me too. I'm not the bravest guy in the world. But I do think that these conversations are important and they have to be had with your client. I think they're very important to be had. And I mean, you're gonna have to have them early and often, right? The client's gonna be like, I want X amount of dollars. And you say, okay, but what you want has nothing to do with what the case is worth, right? When you sell a car, you don't start with what do I want. You want $10 million. You want $30 million. Of course, you want as much as you can get. But what's the car actually worth? The car has a Kelley Blue Book value of 15 grand, and on the market it looks like it's going for 16 grand. Sounds like you have a $16,000 car. Maybe you can try to market it for 18, see what happens, but you're not going to get 10 million. You're not going to get 30 million, right? Like there is a valuation process here that is not guided by what an individual wants, by what could be obtained, right? And I'm also not saying anyone has to settle their case. I'm just saying, if you are talking settlement or if you're trying to set what you're suing for, generally you're going to want to make those numbers reality-based. Both because it's going to lend credence to you as an attorney. It's going to make you seem more imposing. It's going to make you seem more competent. But also there's just a lot of studies and a lot of data that reflects when you make nonsensical demands, just absurd demands that do not have any basis in fact or law, generally the result there is going to be that you end up with far less as a result, if anything, right? But generally, it is not a recipe for maximizing your recovery when you're making just absurd demands, right? And listen, people might be, oh, you go high to get to get a good settlement. Yes, to an extent, right? If you want 150 grand, well, you're probably going to have to make a demand for 300 grand if your case can support that. If the law and the way your damages would be calculated, and we have many videos on this channel about how to calculate damages because it's a perennial question that people have and that people ask, right, over and over and over again. So we keep trying to answer it in a variety of ways, hoping that as somebody goes through our playlist of how to calculate damages, one of the videos will stick with them because it is a difficult topic. It is a difficult topic, and people tend, just because we're human beings, they tend to come at it from but I want. And fundamentally not understand, no one asked what you want. That's not the question. What is the case worth? What can you get? And if you can get that, do you want that or do you want to go to trial? That is a better question, right? There is a component of do you want this? But that component will be tied to do you accept a settlement or not, right? You can roll the dice and go to trial and try to win more, and no one can tell you what will or won't happen at trial. They can tell you what's unlikely or likely to happen in their opinion, but even then, they're guessing. You know, they're telling you, oh, I think this might happen. I think a jury of your peers who I've never met will see a trial that I've never seen, and they might believe X, and they might give you Y, right? That's a guess. That's a lot of fortune telling. They don't actually know that, right? Anyways, I somehow have gone over 10 minutes again. I hope this video at least has sound. I hope that whoever's question I was answering with that original video finds this video and has their question answered. But yeah, generally, I think the easiest answer is why employment attorneys sue for way more than a case is potentially worth. Ignorance and incompetence. If you're new with the press, if you don't know how to engage with the press, if you don't actually know how to have those conversations in a way that are going to present value to the reporter while also serving your client's interests, you might find yourself slipping into the nonsensical approach of just saying big numbers to get a headline because you don't know what you're doing. Take care.